I'm back. I'm still Tim Gale. I'm still the ZCC Partnership Manager. I mentioned the website at the start. We've got 7 minutes to go through a massive subject. ZCC is a big thing. We're trying to do a big thing, but I'll do my best to go through it and give you a flavour of what we've done, what we're doing at the moment, and what we hope to do in the future. So we're a partnership of more than 80 organisations now. Incredible amount of knowledge across all sectors, expertise across a huge variation of partners, big strategic partners, lots of people working individually as well, and some people working on community scale projects. I think anything and everyone are part of the partnership one way or another through connections and extended networks of all of those groups. We have a strategic oversight board. That's providing oversight, is what it does. It's giving the group some assurance, some direction, some support to get on track, stay on track, working with the brilliant work that Dimitri and his colleagues at Small World Consulting are doing, providing us with that information, that baseline on what to best focus on over the next few months and years ahead to our 2037 net zero carbon target for the county. So we're trying to work that out. We're trying to think, right, how do we best divide that up and make it make some sense? So we've got 4 sector groups at the moment, and you can see one of them is transport and mobility, and there's quite a few people in the room, in fact, at this table that are on that group. Really great group of people that have started that conversation off to assess and understand what it is that we can do around transport and mobility. And you can see that it kind of lines up very closely with some of the pie charts that Dimitri was showing in terms of our approach to our housing emissions, land use, and our emissions from waste. Alongside this, we also have 16 community-led projects that are funded by the Climate Action Fund National Lottery funding, covering all sorts of things. Climate juries, citizens juries working on climate change, youth climate program, low carbon food projects, all sorts of different projects there that are being run at community scale. So this transport and mobility group, is one of those sector groups of the partnerships, been working since September 2021. Monica and her team done a huge amount of work with that partnership, with that group to better understand how we can kind of rethink the future. Monica presented some slides at the start that sets that out, maps that out in terms of what it is we need to be thinking about as we move forward. So at the moment we're planning with a high level plan to map that out, looking at the priorities for the next few months and years ahead, eventually moving towards an emissions reduction action plan that we hope will provide key stakeholders with a bit more of an understanding, backed up by the baseline data on the best actions to take. So very much a roadmap, or I heard someone say maybe rather be a footpath map of how we approach transport emissions for that 2037 target. So you can see the huge range of groups and people that have been engaged with in that group so far. So we have been thinking about it. We've been working with Monica. We've been trying to understand what that means for mobility futures based on different geographies, based on different towns. Monica's led us through some really great work thinking about what that future might look like town by town, thinking about how we connect that up, thinking about how the emissions reduction plan from transport might connect in to produce a wider decarbonised view, plan, strategy for the county more widely. So yeah, lots of work done already. We've tried to assess with everyone working through different programs, workshops, meetings. What is it that we think we need to do to make that difference? What's that one thing? And because we had such a range of organisations in the room, they were all so different, which is what we hoped. And for me, I think what came out of that was quite interesting that Liz mentioned in the opening remarks about how we need to think about the sort of infrastructure change, the policy change and the social change, and how they all mesh together. They all need to happen in one way or another, and that engagement with the different people, organisations we have in the partnership, I hope is a way of doing that. It's a place where we can connect that conversation together. And if the partnership can do one thing, I hope it's that. We had some really strong real life stories, I think it's fair to say, coming from the group, showing what it's actually like to live in Cumbria without a car. One of those was from Sarah Mason, who leads the work with the Morecambe Bay Partnership. I don't know if Sarah's on the call today, but been really really great in her contributions to the group and thinking about that car-free living. And you can see there from that statement about just what a challenge it is to work without a car in the county. But her colleagues have been supporting that, and that word adjusting, I think, is really important. Sarah really brought that out about how she's had to adjust, but also her colleagues have almost had to catch up with her thinking on that. And you know, I think that's fascinating, those kind of real life stories about how that feels and how it plays out from a practical perspective, and her employer starting to think a bit differently, as well as it sort of engendering that conversation about sort of carbon and climate change more widely. So I think that's interesting too. Monica led a press conference exercise where we were put into workshops addressing the key questions, working back off those visions that we came up with for a mobility, low carbon mobility future for the county. So we had to report back to and be grilled by a fictitious press, and it was really fascinating. The range of points that came out from that, from the visions that we were working on. Some really quite crunchy questions in there, I think, that will have to be tackled. Again, a mixture of the kind of ethics, if you like, of and fairness around our mobility, particularly in a rural county. As well as the conversations around infrastructure, technology, and that side of what a future might look like. Great exercise to do, and gets people thinking differently, gets people to work with colleagues in different types of organisation cultures that they're maybe not used to, and I think that adds to the richness massively. So I finish on this slide. These are the recommendations and priorities I think that we're starting to identify very quickly. I know I've not got long. Make it achievable for people, make them feel they can make the change, build in those post-pandemic ways of working and make them permanent, very much like Sarah's example in her workplace, changing the way she's travelling. We need to get these emission reduction action plans in place to help our key stakeholders take the action and to map out what we think is the best way of working. Dimitri and his team, keep working with them to keep better understanding the baseline data. That collaborative working is going to continue to be very, very important across the group. We want to continue building in the community voice and making that really meaningful, working through the citizens' jury approach where possible. We know we need the policy change, but we think we've got some brilliant things coming out locally and also regionally through Transport for the North, some signs that change is starting to happen with our policy changes as well. I'll leave it there. Thank you.